Hey guys, welcome back to our mochi making journey, part 3. If you're just joining us, catch up on part 1 over here. In part 1, we tested a pretty standard mochi making recipe, steaming, using cookie cutters, but the problem we found was that our mochi kept tearing, and it was kind of hard on day 2. So in part 2, we tested a cooking directly over the stove method, one that didn't set in the refrigerator, and no cookie cutters, so you just worked with the dough while it was still hot. That resulted in some super soft mochi, but it was just missing that chew. Oh, and if you're enjoying the journey so far, don't forget to subscribe. Today, we are going to one of the mochi shops in the Bay Area. Benkyodo was opened in 1906 and one of the original businesses in Japantown. It is still family operated and owned today, basically like a legacy. And especially for my family, it was the highlight of going to Japantown. It was a way to bring a piece of Japantown home with you. And then when you got home and you got to bite into that fluffy, heavenly piece, it just created such deeply rooted memories for us. If you're lucky enough to go there, check out their blueberry mochi. That's our family favorite. The mochi at Benkyodo is like the standard for mochi. And maybe I'm a little biased because it's like the first mochi I've ever had, but once you go fresh, it's just, it's a challenge to accept anything else. And that's because commercially made mochi is gonna have stabilizers, preservatives, it's gonna be refrigerated, and that's gonna affect the flavor and the texture. So, while we've been able to make super soft mochi, it's always been missing that elasticity, that bite, that chew, and that's that bothers me so much. This whole time we've been making mochi, we've been using Mochiko flour, and that's kind of because most recipes either don't specify or basically say that Mochiko flour is the acceptable alternative to Shiratamako flour. And like our oyaki experiment, we've discovered that the flour absolutely makes a difference. So apparently Mochiko flour is less elastic and hardens faster than the Shiratamako flour. And that makes sense because that's kind of the problem we had in part 1. So it turns out people kind of listed it as the acceptable alternative because it's more widely available, because Shiratamako flour is, I guess, almost exclusively made in Japan, which makes it a little bit harder to find and is a little bit more expensive. But if you have a local Japanese market, then definitely look for it there because it's more expensive on Amazon. So we finally did get our hands on some Shiratamako flour, and this is how it went. So, the verdict? Shiratamako flour does make a difference. You can definitely tell in the beginning the flours look very different to start. It dissolves differently, it comes together differently. The cooked mochi, of course, is difficult to tell, but when you bite it, and also how it holds on day 2 and 3 is like totally different. And even though we only recorded the cooking on the stove, we also tested steaming the Shiratamako flour, and we actually prefer the texture to the steamed version. We've gotten really close. We were able to taste test that next to the Benkyodo mochi, and we're getting there. We really are. But is that it? Are we done? I don't think so. It's still missing a little bit of that bite, and we learned that we were literally wrong about our mochi making. If you've ever had dango and mochi are both rice-based desserts or snacks, and the only difference is that dango is made with rice flour, and then mochi is made with actual rice grain. So, literally and technically, we have been making dango and not mochi, even though I guess nowadays it's kind of widely accepted to be either or something like that, but we want to make legit mochi. So even though the steamed version of Shiratamako flour is very good, we want to test ourselves and see if making it with rice grain is going to be the real distinction in that texture and flavor. So join us next time, part 4. We are going to attempt making mochi with actual rice grains, legit mochi. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe, hit the notifications if you've been following along. Don't miss out on the next one. Bye!